All right, we're back, everyone. It's Brother Doug here. We're going to be going into 1 Kings chapters 5 to 6. But let me just, I'm just reminding myself that I need to clear up some storage on my Zoom so that this will go to the cloud. So let me just do that real quick. That shouldn't take too long. I'll just be deleting some old recordings there so the cloud is free. Let's see here. Okay, zoom.us. And I'll show you guys what I'm doing here. I have to do this every once in a while because we do a lot of recordings here on the Sabbath and stuff like that. So let me just go to my account, recordings. Yeah. So all this other stuff here, April 10th, get rid of all the old stuff here from March and all that, and delete selected. There we go. So now it will only have what we've been doing today. So there we go. Thank you everyone for bearing with me so I could do that. All right, now we're going to start off. We're going to continue here with me reading. I will be reading 1 Kings chapters 5 to 6. All right. And let's see here. You know what?
Let us know if you need anyone to read with you, okay? For you.
What happened? Sister Marissa, I think Sadie's side is having some connection problems. I can barely hear you. Okay. All right. So 1 Kings chapter 5. I'll do the side-by-side thing like I did before. Okay, so here we go. 1 Kings chapter 5. And let me just put down my keyboard so I can actually hold this microphone here. All right, so 1 Kings chapter 5. And Hiram, king of Tyre, sent his servants to anoint Solomon in the place of David his father. Now this is interesting. There's a king of Tyre that's about to anoint Solomon. So that's pretty interesting to me. I wonder if he was a believer. I wonder if he was a convert, this king of Tyre. And obviously this is not the same king of Tyre as Ezekiel. Obviously those are two completely different time periods. And Ezekiel is way after King Solomon. So obviously. Anyway. Place of David his father, because Hiram always loved David. So I guess Hiram and David were very close. And Solomon sent to Hiram saying, "You knew my father David, that he could not build a house to the name of Yahuwah. That's interesting. I find that interesting. Masoretic says his, Septuagint says my. Interesting. My Elohim, because of the wars that surrounded him about, until Yahuwah put them under the soles of his feet." So we see a partial fulfillment right there from the book of Psalms, where David, he's being inspired by the set apart spirit. And he's saying, Yahuwah has said to me, I will make your enemies, a footstool for your feet and all that. So this is like a partial messianic fulfillment with David. So that's pretty interesting there. Verse 4, and now Yahuwah my Elohim has given me rest round about. There is no one plotting against me, and there is no evil trespass against me. And behold, I intend to build a house to the name of Yahuwah my Elohim, as Yahuwah Elohim spoke to my father David, saying, your son, whom I will set on your throne in your place, he shall build a house for my name. And now command and let men cut wood for me out of Lebanon, the cedars of Lebanon. Okay. And behold, my servants shall be with your servants, and I will give you the wages of your service, according to all that you shall say, because you know that we have no one skilled in cutting timber like the Sidonians. Now, just to explain geographically some biblical geography, basically the Sidonians and the land Tyre, they're basically like one and the same. Sidon and Tyre is like one and the same. So just to kind of explain that, so you can kind of picture it in your head. So the Sidonians would be in the land of Tyre. Okay, so anyway, moving on. Oh, and also I wanted to comment, I think it's interesting. It talks about, King Solomon emphasizes here to Hiram, king of Tyre, that I will be paying you your wages, because in the Torah it talks about you are to pay someone their wages that day before the sun is set. So I find that interesting. So it seems like King Solomon is just reassuring him there, yeah, I'm going to pay you your wages. And it came to pass, as soon as Hiram heard that the words of Solomon, that he rejoiced greatly and said, Baruch be Elohim this day, who has given to David a wise son over this numerous people. And he sent to Solomon, saying, I have listened concerning all that you have sent to me, for I will do all your will. As for the timber of cedar and fir, my servants shall bring them down from Lebanon to the sea. I will form them into rafts and bring them to the place you shall send to me about, and I will land them there, and you shall take them up, and you shall do my will in giving bread to my household. Interesting. Excuse me. So Hiram gave to Solomon cedars and fir trees and all his desire. And Solomon gave to Hiram 20,000 measures of wheat as food for his house, and 20,000 baths of beaten oil. Thus Solomon gave to Hiram yearly, and Yahuwah gave wisdom to Solomon as he promised him. And there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and they made a covenant between themselves, or between them. And the king raised a levy out of all Yasharal. See, this is why I say, and this is interesting to me, because, right, King Hiram is a king of Tyre, and King Solomon is making a covenant with him. So to me, this kind of proves what I always believed about that commandment that talks about don't make covenants with them. Obviously, Yahuwah was not saying don't make covenants with any Gentile kings or people of other Gentile nations. Obviously, Yahuwah was talking about specific people not to make covenants with. When you go back to Deuteronomy, it talks about the Canaanites, the Hittites, Girgashites, etc. Okay, this to me is proof in verse 12 here, that he did not mean don't make covenants between any Gentiles, like don't make covenants with any Gentiles. So that's kind of cool that I found proof for that. Anyway, verse 13, and the king raised a levy out of all Yasharal, and the levy was 30,000 men. And he sent them to Lebanon, 10,000, taking turn every month. They were a month in Lebanon and 2 months at home. And Adoniram was over the levy. And Solomon had 70,000 bearers of burdens and 80,000 hewers of stone in the mountain. Besides the rulers that were appointed over the works of Solomon, there were 3,600 masters who worked in the works. Okay. It's not there. And they prepared the stones and the timber during 3 years. Okay, so that was the end of chapter 5 there. Okay, so they're getting ready to build the temple. They got all the timber being taken back and forth from Hiram's workers and Solomon's workers. So now we're going to start chapter 6. Okay. 1 Kings chapter 6. And it came to pass in the 440th year. Now, this is where it gets a little weird when you compare the two versions here. The Masoretic says 480, and the Septuagint says 440. Woo, that's a huge difference. All right. That's kind of interesting. After the departure of the children of Yasharal out of Egypt, in the 4th year and 2nd month of the reign of King Solomon over Yasharal, that the king commanded that they should take great and costly stones for the foundation of the house, and hewn stones, and the men of Solomon and the men of Hiram hewed the stones and laid them for the foundation. In the 4th year, he laid the foundation of the house of Yahuwah in the month of Ziv. So I guess that seems to be a legitimate name for a month here. In the 2nd month, in the 11th year, in the 8th month, the house was completed. So basically, if we do the math here, it took about 7 years. And to all its plan and according to all its arrangement. And the house which the king built to Yahuwah was 40 cubits in length, 20 cubits in breadth, and its height was 25 cubits. And the porch in front of the temple was 20 cubits in length according to the breadth of the house in front of the house, and he built the house and finished it. And he made secret windows for the house inclining inward, and against the wall of the house he set chambers round about the temple and the ark. The underside was 5 cubits broad, the underside was 5 cubits broad, okay. And the middle part 6, and the third was 7 cubits broad, for he formed an interval to the house round about without the house, that they might not touch the walls of the house. And the house was built in the construction of it with rough hewn stones, and there was not heard in the house in the building of it neither hammer or axe or any iron tool. And the porch of the underside was below the right wing of the house, and there was winding ascent into the middle chamber, and from a middle to the 3rd story. So he built the house and finished it, and he made the ceiling of the house with cedars, and he made the partitions throughout all the house, each 5 cubits high, and enclosed each partition with cedar broads. Yeah, there's a couple of omitted verses here. Go. Here we go, verse 15. And he framed the walls of the house inside the cedar boards from the floor of the house and onto the inner walls, and to the beams he inclined the parts enclosed with boards inside, and compassed the inward parts of the house with planks of fir. And he built the 20 cubits from the top of the wall, one side from the floor to the beams, and he made it from the oracle to the most set apart place. Okay, let's see here. So, verse 17. And the temple was 40 cubits long, in front of the oracle in the midst of the house inside, in order to put there the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah. The length was 20 cubits, the breadth was 20 cubits, and the height of it was 20 cubits, and he covered it with perfect gold. I like how it says perfect gold. And he made an altar in the front of the oracle and covered it with gold. And he covered the whole house with gold till he had finished gilding the whole house. And he made in the oracle 2 cherubim of 10 cubits high. So we see the parallel here with what we read in Exodus and what we're reading now. So the cherubim, that's one thing in common here. The wing of one cherub was 5 cubits. His other wing was 5 cubits, 10 cubits from the tip of the wing to the tip of the other wing. Thus it was with the other cherub. Both were alike finished with one measure. And the height of the one cherub was 10 cubits. And so with the second cherub. And both the cherubim were in the midst of the innermost part of the house, and they were spread out their wings. And the one wing touched the wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall. And their wings in the midst of the house touched each other. And he covered the cherubim with gold. And he engraved all the walls of the house round about with the engraving of cherubim and the sculptured palm trees within and without the house. And he covered the floor of the house within and without with gold. And for the doorway of the oracle he made doors of juniper wood. There were porches in a 4-fold way. Okay. Omitted again. All right, verse 34. In both the doors were planks of fir. The one door had 2 leaves, their hinges, and the other door had 2 leaves and turned on hinges, being carved with cherubim, and there were palm trees, open flower leaves, and it was overlaid with gold, gilded upon the engraving. And he built the inner court, 3 rows of hewn stones, and the row of worked cedar, and round about, and made the curtain of the court of the porch of the house, that it was in front of the temple. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 6. So we get an idea here of what the Temple of Solomon would look like. And I think it would be good to, again, show this book here what it would kind of give a visual here of what it would look like. So we see a lot of things in common with the gold and the cherubim and the measurements of the house of Yahuwah. So let's see here. Let me go back to the visual here in this book. The tabernacle. Okay, let's get to, here we go. Here's a pretty nice picture here they put of Solomon's temple here. What the front would have looked like. Let me see here if I can try to get this part over here. Okay, so this is kind of what it would look like. So, okay.
Brother,
so
could that be, now that we're kind of like, we got to do this other investigation about the round temple, could that be a Roman style and maybe Egyptian style temple? And that's what they used for a picture back then. I'm not sure, because I was kind of interested what you said when to put the leaves, what did you say, verse 29 and 30, roundabout. So
Oh, that just means around. That just means around. That doesn't mean making it round. That just means round. The word roundabout actually means around something. So like that doesn't mean that's the shape of it. Just to explain that the terminology roundabout just means like you're going around something. Like
Yeah.
you're like even with a car, if you use that type of terminology, it means to go around the cone or go around, round about the curve, So that's what that terminology means. It doesn't indicate what the shape is though. And from what I know, from what I've heard about history, is that it seems that they know for a fact at the minimum the temples were definitely rectangle.
Okay.
They know for a fact the temples were the shape that people draw them as. Herod's temple was confirmed as the shape that they portray it as. The tabernacle is only one because back then we have to understand there was no written history that early with the Israelites. So no one's writing down, this is what it looks like, or no one was drawing, what the tabernacle actually looked like. So that's why there's a lot of debate about the tabernacle, because there wasn't really recorded history back then. You don't really get recorded history until the later part of the BC era, and really the first century AD is like really when you get a lot of recorded history, especially with the Romans. A lot of recorded history about Messiah, a lot of recorded history about other things, like Josephus was first century AD historian. So you get a lot more historians as you go further on through the time period, the later time periods. So around Solomon's time, I'm pretty sure people were recording something. I'm pretty sure at that point, you had Israelites, recording what it looks like, just as a way to know what they should, if they ever had to build a temple again, what it would look like, you know. So yeah, but from what I've looked up, what we see as Solomon's temple portrayed as is pretty accurate. Definitely, the cherubim, I would say, is a little bit inaccurate the way they have the cherubim looking. In that picture, that's the only thing I would have to say as a criticism, is that the cherubim definitely did not they did not look like a sphinx. So a little bit of the artwork could be changed. The cherubim, they had their wings, like it says in the scripture, their wings touch from one wall to the next. So we know that for a fact. And the cherubs basically were, just to explain, I don't want to spend too much time because we've done a study about who are the four living creatures, and you can pretty much look that up on the channel, and it explains what cherubim are. But just to explain to people that might have not seen that study, let me go to Ezekiel Chapter 1 and explain basically what they look like. Okay, they're obviously angels. They have wings, but in appearance, they're kind of like a hybrid almost. These type of angels, they're like, they have the appearance of a man, lion, so on and so forth. Ezekiel Chapter 1 verse 5 says, in the midst of it were the likeness of four living creatures, and this was their appearance, the likeness of a man. Each one had four faces. Each one had four wings. So obviously, if Solomon has to make cherubs on the mercy seat and how the tabernacle, I'm pretty sure Solomon's making it to the pattern of the tabernacle. That's the way he's making his temple. And so he's got to make it so that it pretty much parallels the way the tabernacle was built. So he's making these cherubim on the mercy seat and all of that. And so they're the four wings, or the wings, that's what would be hitting each wall. Their legs were straight, their feet were winged, and there were sparks like gleaming brass. That's probably why Yahuwah told him to make them, with gold, the engraved cherubim with gold. because I guess gold and brass are pretty similar in color. And their wings were light, and the hand of a man was under their wings on their four sides, and the faces of them four turned not when they went, and they went straight forward. The likeness of their faces was the face of a man, face of a lion on the right of the four, and the face of a calf on the left of the four, and the face of an eagle to the four. So that's basically what a cherub looks like, this class of angel. That's what they look like. So that's obviously, if they're making cherubim, and who is commanding them to make cherubim for the tabernacle and for the temple in Jerusalem, they have to make it according to what cherubs would look like. So obviously. But anyway, just to explain what they actually look like compared to what we try to make them look like today, which is non-biblical, like the whole stupid Cupid nonsense. That's not biblical at all. There's no such thing as a baby cherub. So just to explain that. Anyway, so that was 1 Kings chapter 5 to 6. So we're gonna yep, go ahead, sis.
That's okay. That sounds like a mighty powerful cherubs. You know what I mean? Like compared to what we see them as, what man has again destroyed and lied about. But
yeah. I personally
shows strength, you know, the strength of them.
I believe, in my opinion, according to how the Septuagint translated Ezekiel 28, I know this is controversial, but I believe the cherub is not Satan. It's actually Michael, because it says in Ezekiel 28, and I'll just read it real quick, the one verse, because I don't want to go to too many rabbit trails, but I think this is important because the Septuagint is different on this chapter. This is the only chapter they get Satan as a cherub. There's no other verse in Scripture that would ever hint to that. But if you look at the Septuagint, the cherub's the one that actually throws him out of heaven. It says here in Ezekiel 28:12, Son of man, in the Brentons here, take up a lamentation for the prince or principality of Tyre, and say to him, thus says Yahuwah Elohim, you are a seal of resemblance and a crown of beauty. You were in the delight of the paradise Elohim, meaning, you know, Eden. You have been upon, thou has bound upon you every precious stone, the sardius, the topaz, the emerald, the carbuncle, the sapphire, the jasper, the silver, gold, and ligure, agate, immense, chrysolite, beryl, and onyx. You have filled your treasuries in your storehouses with gold. From the day that you were created, thou, meaning you, was with the cherub. I set you on the set apart mountain of Elohim. You were in the midst of the stones of fire. You were faultless in the days from that you were created until iniquity or lawlessness was found in you. Of the abundance of your merchandise, you have filled your storehouses with lawlessness. You have sinned. Therefore you have been cast down, wounded from the mountain of Elohim, and the cherub has brought you out of the midst of the stones of fire. So according to the Septuagint, Satan is not a cherub. He was actually thrown out by the cherub. So my theory, according to the Septuagint, that's why I have a theory that Michael, the archangel, was actually a cherub. And he, you know, according to Revelations 12, he threw Satan out of heaven. So, you know, it makes sense to me because Michael's one of the strongest angels we really see in Scripture, you know. So, you know, he's kind of like Yahushua's first in command. So it would make sense to me that Michael is a cherub. So, but anyway, so that's just my opinion on it. I know a lot of people are still holding to the Masoretic version tradition of Satan being a cherub, but I don't believe he's a cherub at all. But anyway, moving forward.
Okay, before we move forward, you know what I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to Google it to see how far back it goes, is when you said they fastened it with the doors with hinges. Okay, Isn't that funny? Today we use hinges to fasten our doors, but again, there's nothing new under the sun. And the word hinges, I just kind of wanted to look at that and see what it meant, because that's like, wow, that's an old word. That's an old word, not unless it said something else. But I just kind of, when people think, the Bible's not true, it's funny because this is old and it uses the word hinge, and the word says, what I'm starting to say now, there's nothing new under the sun, our beloved Yahushua HaMashiach, and the Son, S-U-N. And I'm trying to get on Facebook. If you can, how do I find you on Facebook so I can open it up?
Well, that's funny too. There's a company that makes hinges, and the company's name is Hagar, and it says everything hinges on Hagar.
Oh.
Yeah, what you're going to have to do, Sister Sadia, you're going to have to go on your own Facebook, and you're going to actually, with your phone, you're going to have to do a live from your Facebook and then share it or whatever. And like, I could probably share your live to people so more people can see our study. But yeah, Facebook is not allowing me to do my own live right now. So that's why you guys will probably see this study later. I'll upload it to my timeline. But those that will be seeing this later on, you'll probably see it on your timeline on Facebook. I'll have to like manually upload these studies that we've done today from my computer to Facebook. I won't be able to do live today. So anyway, so this is the end of our portion here for First Kings. We're gonna be right back, everyone. We might take a short intermission. We're going to figure out who's going to be reading next for Job 32 to 38. So we're going to be doing that next. So please stay tuned. All of our viewers and listeners will be back shortly. Sorry about that. Got a little tongue tied. All right. So we'll be back. Shalom.